Hi, welcome to Pastor Kev Show. Got my buddy Abhiram with us. We're going to talk a little bit about his stealth startup today. Good afternoon, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
All right, so without giving away too many of the secrets, talk to us a little bit about what you can about your stealth startup.
Yeah, so essentially, I am 16 years old, turned 17 in a couple days actually.
Happy
But I created this self startup, and not to disclose too much, but I noticed a problem in my community surrounding misinformation, specifically financial misinformation. So a lot of my peers were making financial decisions without really knowing the cost of what they were doing, right? They were investing in volatile assets without really knowing what they were doing. And I saw one particular instance is not only in the youth, but in fact, this kind of affected me personally. My grandfather put a lot of money into a very volatile stock, and he fell for a misinformation scam, a pump and dump, and he lost quite a lot of money. And since that's a very personal issue to me, I said, let me do something about it. And I founded this stealth startup. And essentially, in my journey of the startup, I think the journey to where I am taught me more about the destination, right? We have helped many people in the pre-seed phase of our startup, but particularly there is a few pieces of advice that I have about the journey and like where it took me and how I did that. So I can get into that actually right now.
okay.
So mainly, I think the first barrier is to age, right? Like obviously me, I had to get a I tried to get some fair share of internships in my day, research opportunities as a lot of kids my age do, but I was turned down at every single step because I was just too young, right? They don't look at your resume, they look at your age.
Yep.
And this really became kind of a learning experience for me because obviously when you're young, people think of it in the opposite way, in my opinion. People think when you're young, you must learn from somebody else. I disagree. I think when you're young, you have to start your own initiatives because people don't let you join theirs. For example, I applied to join like a research lab just to shadow them, see what's going on. Nothing even too crazy, but I was rejected and they said, "Oh, you're too young." So I said, "Okay, let me show you what I'm about to do." So then I went and I did some independent research myself. I think a lot of young people are too scared about starting something on their own because they believe that they're going to fail. But again, you're young. It's time for you to fail. In my creation of the Self startup, there was one right before it that unfortunately failed as well. But again, it's all steps in the journey.
I agree. So my side of this is, I agree with you, obviously. I like when ideas are personal. I find that, I want the why behind it. Hey, you told me about your gramps. What happened? That makes it personal to me. And I agree with you about the misinformation out there. I get scared when I see my students, they have their laptop open. What are you doing? I'm trading options, Kev. And I'm like, okay, do you know what you're doing? Well, like exactly what you said. I watched a couple YouTube videos where someone's giving you advice that benefits them and not you. I'm like, all right, we're only playing with a little bit of money, right? That if you lose it, is this gonna, oh, yeah, but then saw a student, hey, he got greedy. He was winning and, he went too far and then he lost all his money and stuff. So, and I agree on the rejection thing. It's hard because, as an old person, there's times that, hey, I don't do research, but I get so many requests. And I see, it's like, all right, this person has the talent, but yet sometimes older people are reluctant to give you the shot because they think, oh, like you said, go make mistakes someplace else and then come help me. And I like how you spun it. You're like, that's fine. You won't let me play with you. I'll go play and make my own thing. That's probably better than what you have because you rejected me and stuff. That's just like to me an entrepreneurial story. I couldn't go in the direction I wanted to go in, so I went in a better direction. And I think that's how your story is going to end, where that's going to come up and be like, ah, man, I remember when he was 16 and he asked me to play, and I said no. I'm going to regret that and stuff because you could have, given me feedback and stuff. I have a student who's helping me with the show who's 16. And there's times when I want to do something, he'll tell me why he thinks I shouldn't. And I'll be like, you know what? He's kind of got a point. I should probably listen to him and stuff. And it's easy, like you said, to dismiss you guys because you're 15, 16 years old, instead of saying, maybe you have a better way of doing it that I'm just not seeing because I'm set in my ways, to be honest. So I definitely like that. So, what other advice do you have? You talked about you'd already had one failure. And I always say that to my students. I get mad because we don't talk about the failures because no one wants to hear those stories. We only want to hear your success, but the failures is often how we get there because we learn like, hey, I probably shouldn't do that. I tried and I was wrong. There's nothing wrong with trying, especially when you're 16. That's when you should make your mistakes, not when you're 60. It's a little more painful at 60 and stuff. So, what other ideas do you think people should consider?
Well, yeah, I completely agree with what you said, right? And the second main piece of advice I would give actually piggybacks right off of that. I agree with what you're saying that failure is important, but I would actually argue that failure is more important than success. Because again, success is very fleeting. It can go away at any moment, right? Like, obviously, I don't want this to happen, but my startup could, go under at any time. But I
Good point.
think that I think I learned a lot more from the failure of my initiative than from growing my current one. I can actually tell a little bit about that, right? So essentially, it's more of this misinformation thing, specifically steroid use among kids my age. I wanted to combat that. So I reached out to some, I reached out to some law firms, I reached out to some policymakers next to me, and all of them, again, rejected what I was saying. They said, oh, your passion for this is really nice, but you just don't have enough data to back it up. And like I really took this to heart. I was like, okay, like you think I don't have enough data. If you think you don't believe what I'm saying is true, then I'll prove it that it's true. So then, I went on my own. I did a lot of research and then I founded the current stealth startup, which, does piggyback off of that and morphs it into a very powerful moving object. But
If people have questions, they're working on an idea and they need someone to just kind of give them that push. What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to, hear more about your experience? Because I laugh, we all think we're special as entrepreneurs. Like, I'm the only one that ever had this problem. Well, not quite. You're on a long list of people who've had this problem. So, what's the best way if people want to maybe collaborate with you, brainstorm with you? What's the best way to reach out?
I would say two ways. Probably my email is the best way you'll catch me. I can throw that in the chat if you'd like. But the second best way is probably the company email as well. But I think I'll put my personal in the chat if that works for
Yep.
everybody.
Yep. That works and stuff. Like you said, I'll just add that in to the video. And like you said, we'll be all set, my friend. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call into the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it.